Hello and welcome. You are watching World Business Report here on News 9 Live. I'm Krishna Kumar. We begin with Wall Street, where the US stock markets moved further forward as investors sifted through growing forecasts of interest rate cuts by the US Federal Reserve in the upcoming year 2024. Investors were also anticipating a week filled with significant economic data. Bear in mind, it is a dynamic time for stock markets across the world, with expectations of a rate cut only growing, but without any surety. For now, it is all about the rally on Wall Street that is just continuing.
A broad but modest rally lifted most U.S. stocks on Monday. Wall Street continues to build on 7 straight weeks of gains, fueled by optimism of interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve in 2024. The Dow ended flat, while the S&P 500 added nearly 0.5%, and the Nasdaq rose 0.6. Scharf Investments lead portfolio manager Brian Crowes says he thinks stocks will experience smooth sailing in the near term, but he remains concerned about what could happen in 2024.
We think things are going to be constructive for a while. Next year, as potentially earnings disappoint, if we have a recession, and if the higher oil prices coupled with ongoing geopolitical risk could create a problem for investors. But at least right now, we think investors are going to continue to push stocks higher.
Fed presidents tried to rein in the enthusiasm Monday, with Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee warning that the central bank has not pre-committed to cutting interest rates anytime soon. And Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said financial markets had gotten a little bit ahead of the central bank with respect to the timing and extent of rate cuts. Stocks on the move included shares of U.S. Steel, which surged 26% after Japan's Nippon Steel agreed to buy the company for nearly $15 billion. And shares of VF Corp fell 8%, following its announcement that unauthorized activity on its computer system affected the Vans sneaker maker's ability to fulfill some orders.
Now, Scharf Investments' lead portfolio manager, Brian Crowes, has highlighted mounting concerns of a potential U.S. recession by the year 2024 ends. The warning has sparked discussions across financial circles, prompting analysis and considerations about what is going to happen with the U.S. economy going forward.
In terms of the economy, in 2023, there's no question it's been more resilient than people were really expecting. For our part, we've always said that we thought if we had a recession, it would come in 2024. There's always lagged effects for the Fed policy. And so, 2023 is really too early to have seen those effects. What you've seen is a surprisingly good economy and inflation starting to behave. As we go into 2024, we think there's risks that the Fed policy starts to really bite. And then on top of that, you've got geopolitical risks, and those can start to do things like push up oil prices, reduce demand. If those conflicts in either Ukraine or in the Middle East got worse, that would obviously be another headwind for the markets, not to mention the fact that you've got going into an election year. So we think next year there's a heightened risk of having some kind of recession. And probably gains next year are not going to be anywhere near as healthy as this year. The parts of the market that we would be most concerned about is those areas that are most cyclically oriented, because those are the ones that are most affected by slowing economic activity. Areas like healthcare, consumer staples, those areas should do relatively well and be unscathed, as they're less impacted by slowing economic activity. Industrials, some parts of tech tend to be more cyclically exposed, and so those would be the areas we think would be the most at risk for not hitting their earnings expectations and ultimately disappointing investors.
Away from the US to the European Union, which has launched its inaugural probe under the Digital Services Act. And who is this probe against? none other than Elon Musk and his platform X, formerly known as Twitter. Now, this investigation has added to the scrutiny faced by tech giants across the board as the EU delves into potential implications and compliance issues in the digital realm, mainly with regards to quote-unquote toxic content.
The European Union is investigating X, formerly known as Twitter, over a suspected breach of obligations. It would be the first probe under the Digital Services Act, or DSA, the EU said on Monday. The DSA entered into force in November last year. It requires very large online platforms and search engines to do more to tackle illegal content and risks to public security. EU industry head Thierry Breton sent letters to X, Meta, TikTok and Alphabet after Hamas's attack on Israel in October. He reminded them of their obligations under the DSA to tackle harmful and illegal content. The platforms responded by highlighting steps they've taken to stop disinformation on their platforms. But X-owner Elon Musk challenged the disinformation charge. X said Monday it's committed to complying with the DSA and is cooperating with the regulatory process. The European Commission said it will also look at the effectiveness of measures taken to combat information manipulation, including the Community Notes system. X launched its Community Notes feature earlier this year, which allows users to comment on posts to flag false or misleading content. A senior official said the Commission does not consider the Community Notes system to be flawed, but is looking at how it has been implemented. X did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment. Any firm found in breach of the DSA faces a fine worth up to 6% of its global turnover.
Meanwhile, in a landmark development for the aviation industry, Southwest Airlines has agreed to a historic penalty amounting to over $140 million. Now, this agreement is important in addressing the aviation industry's challenges and, more importantly, the aviation industry's regulatory compliance.
Southwest Airlines has agreed to pay a record-setting $140 million civil penalty. The US government made the announcement Monday. It's over a holiday meltdown from December last year, which led to 16,900 flight cancellations and left 2 million passengers stranded. The settlement includes a $35 million cash fine and a 3-year mandate to provide $90 million in travel vouchers of $75 or more for passengers delayed at least 3 hours getting to final destinations due to an airline-caused issue or cancellation. The delay compensation is a first of its kind in the US and due to start in April. Last year's travel chaos was caused by a massive winter storm and led to people missing funerals or long-awaited holiday gatherings. The storm cost Southwest more than $1 billion, but it's since made technology and consumer service upgrades. Southwest did not admit to wrongdoing but agreed to the settlement to avoid litigation. However, regulators found Southwest broke consumer protection laws. They said the airline failed to provide adequate customer service assistance via its call centre to hundreds of thousands of customers. It also argued Southwest failed to give prompt flight status notifications to more than 1 million passengers.
Shifting focus to Japan, Japanese powerhouse Nippon Steel has announced ambitious plans to acquire US Steel for a staggering $15 billion. It's a strategic move that will reshape the global steel market and raise hopes for potential positive shifts in the industry's landscape.
Japan's Nippon Steel said on Monday it would buy U.S. Steel for nearly $15 billion, ending a months-long bidding war for the 122-year-old firm. Nippon beat out rivals including Cleveland-Cliffs and ArcelorMittal. Cleveland-Cliffs actually made the first bid of $35 per share in August. Nippon finalized the agreement with U.S. Steel at $55. Nippon is the world's fourth largest steel maker, and the purchase will significantly expand its production in the United States, where steel prices are expected to rise as automakers ramp up production following their recent deals with labor unions to end strikes. It did not give any projections of the synergies that will arise from the deal that justify the price it will pay. One analyst who spoke to Reuters said Nippon was overpaying and pointed out the agreement was not in the technology space, but rather in the cyclical steel space. A Nippon executive said the company has operated in the United States for 40 years, has a good history of working with unions, and sees no regulatory or antitrust issues with the deal. However, the union representing American steelworkers slammed the purchase and urged regulators to carefully scrutinize it. Shares of U.S. Steel rose nearly 28% to above $50 in morning trading, which is below the $55 deal price.
Time now for a short breather here on the show. We will be back with lots more world business stories on the other side. Keep it with News 9 Live.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा सलमान खान का करेंगे मारेंगे ही जाएंगे जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा
This is someone who is sitting inside our jails and is still very obviously and openly running and possibly the largest organized criminal operation in the country.
Student organization of Punjab University में सोपूगा acting president type भी रहा है.
He was a troublemaker, getting into fights with people, not coming to the class.
As on date, it appears that Lawrence gang is the most important, the prominent gang. Gangs here in Punjab, they are intimidated.
Today he is India's most dangerous gangster, and India's presence are apparently no bar to how Bishnoi runs India's largest criminal empire.
News is now content. Just stream it. Download the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
In China, anticipation is growing as Chinese officials have forecast an upward trajectory for China's economy in the coming year 2024. Their positive outlook offers hope for an economy battered by one crisis after the other, and we will have to wait and watch whether those forecasts ring true or not.
China's economy will improve next year. That was the message from the country's ruling Communist Party during a key meeting. It expects to see more favourable conditions and more opportunities than challenges in the coming year. The official Xinhua agency provided a detailed readout of the yearly Central Economic Work Conference from last week. It's an event where top leaders set economic targets for the following year. They said macroeconomic policies will continue to provide support for economic recovery. Xinhua quoted officials as saying China's prices are low and central government debt levels are not high. But blockages do persist in the domestic economic cycle as demand, consumption and enterprise investment remain weak. Next year, party officials said China would try to move from a post-health crisis recovery to sustained consumption growth, targeting areas including smart homes, recreation and tourism. China's economy has dealt with tepid growth this year and looming concerns over its debt-hit property sector. Officials said Beijing will monitor its real estate markets and meet what it called reasonable financial needs for property companies.
Away from China, Kenya and the European Union have solidified their partnership with the signing of a comprehensive economic agreement. And this collaboration sets the stage for increased trade opportunities and, of course, strengthened bilateral relations between Kenya and countries in the European Union.
Kenya and the European Union moved closer to sealing an economic partnership agreement, officials said on Monday. The agreement would grant the East African nation's exports duty-free status and unlimited access to the bloc. Kenya's Trade Minister, Rebecca Miano.
Today's agreement heralds a new era where Kenyan goods gain immediate and permanent duty and quota-free access to the European market.
Both sides had initialed a draft deal in June after 7 months of negotiations. The EU is one of Kenya's biggest export markets. Last week, the deal was approved by the European Union Council. It will now be presented to the parliaments of both sides for ratification before it comes into force. Kenya's President, William Ruto.
I am particularly happy that this agreement we are signing today leaves the door open, and I say wide open, for our EAC partners to join into this agreement so that together as a region we can benefit from the economies of scale, and Europe can equally benefit from the economies of scale in our part of the world.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the agreement made Kenya a pioneer.
You're showing how to move forward. We encourage the other Eastern African countries to join this economic partnership agreement. They can only benefit from the regional integration, and of course, it is here in the region important also amongst yourselves to open the markets.
Kenya is a major exporter of tea, coffee, flowers, fruits and vegetables to the EU, which accounts for 21% of its overall exports. The country buys machinery, pharmaceuticals and other chemicals from the EU. Bilateral trade between the two stood at a total of 3.3 billion euros in 2022, EU and Kenya government data showed, making it the East African nation's second largest trade partner.
Away from all of that to the world of Hollywood and entertainment, where Hollywood actor Jonathan Majors has now faced serious professional repercussions as Marvel has severed ties with him following a conviction for assault. Now, this development has sparked conversations about the accountability and the intersection of personal conduct with professional careers in the entertainment sphere.
Come down to the next stop, please. And then just turn this way, Jonathan. And Jonathan, right down here. And Jonathan, right in front of us. I thought you brought your own drinking cup.
Right away from that to a heartwarming story that unfolded as a bride, adhering to Bulgarian Islamic traditions, proudly embraced her heritage by painting herself white. Her act of preserving cultural customs has captured the world's attention and admiration. Take a look at this.
Шмитката играеш, а нагоре дори стигнат. Чакай да изпълнявам.
Съм присъствал на такова пяване и сигурно съществуваше още. А и той жена, където на училището.
Вика, тато я отгоре заглаждаш ли? Неверата, това?
Така, същото чакат. Къде бе има в Пловдив същото? Къде имаш в Пловдив?
Василий,
Селка.
Ай, Селка. Ай, е. Други чентички. Не, там няма нищо.
Предложение от турски мисля, че Елина означава тя идва. Тя идва, да.
Away from that to the legacy of Princess Diana, which continues to captivate one and all, as one of her iconic dresses has fetched a staggering $1.1 million at an auction. Now, this sale confirms the legacy of Princess Diana, even as a brand new season of the Netflix series The Crown continues to document her life. Away from Princess Diana to Croatia, where the festive season is amplified further up as 5 million colorful lights are illuminating a town in Croatia, spreading joy and holiday spirit. The dazzling display delighted locals and visitors alike, epitomizing the magic of Christmas. Now, talking about Christmas in the serene Arctic Circle, Santa Claus himself is reflecting on a turbulent 2023 and has expressed hopes and aspiration for a brighter new year 2024. His message of resilience resonates with the spirit of optimism that engulfs everybody in this season.
This is a storybook. Okay. Kuten tiedämme, hän osaa täydelleen.
Here's hoping Santa's wishes come true. Meanwhile, here's some beautiful drone footage that provides a stunning glimpse of Italian capital Rome, adorned with Christmas lights themed around peace. These serene visuals encapsulate the essence of the holiday season, echoing messages of unity and tranquility in the historic city. That's all we have time for in this edition of World Business Report. Thank you so much for watching this broadcast. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
When you enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world, you don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.